Thanks everyone for being here. My name is Stan Pinnell. I'm a senior account executive here at Revelwood, and I'm joined by my colleague Haley, who will be showing you today's overview demo of adaptive planning here in a few moments. Now, I just want to take a few minutes to give you an idea of what to expect today. First, some background on Revelwood. We are a platinum business partner of Workday, and what that means is that we are part of an extremely select group of partners that help you evaluate and implement adaptive planning. Over 25 plus years of experience, and are made up of a diverse team of certified experienced consultants that bring decades of financial operations and system know-how. We've implemented over 150 adaptive customers over the past couple of years, and this list continues to grow. Not only that, but we also help existing adaptive customers with model enhancements, integrations, support services, and one-on-one training. I'm aware that some of you may be here because you have an active initiative to get into a cloud FP&A solution, and some of you may just be here to learn or you're curious. Either way, we greatly appreciate you taking 15 minutes with us in the next few days just to have a quick chat and see what your current challenges are, if you have any feedback, and whether there are resources that we can follow up with. An important thing to know is that the demo today is meant just to really give you a glimpse into what adaptive planning can do. We should be finished in approximately 45 minutes. During that time, everyone is on mute, but if you have a question, there is a Q&A button down at the bottom. Please enter it there and we will try to get to it. If not, we will make sure to get back to you via email. And we already had a question come in, and yes, this presentation is being recorded and we can provide that to you at a later date. I only have a few slides before we get started with the demo. Adaptive planning is a place where you can do your modeling, reporting, and analytics all in one place. So everything that you need is in one solution, and it will act as your central source of truth, if you will. So typically we're talking with finance teams, and of course we're pulling in the general ledger data, but adaptive can connect really into any data source that you need it to, because at the end of the day, data is data, and you'll be able to bring all of that data together into one place to model and report on with confidence. And this slide gives you an idea of some of the areas of the business that you can model and plan using adaptive, as it is not limited to the core P&A functions. You can model out really any operational area of the business that you want to with adaptive. So I'm sure you're thinking, this is really awesome stuff, Stan, but what separates adaptive from the rest of the pack? Great question, everyone. Now, adaptive runs on Elastic Hypercube technology, which is a patented Workday technology, and that is a key competitive differentiator. I'm not going to talk about the technical specifics because it isn't important, but the reason it is key is because it makes the solution scalable and able to have an unlimited number of dimensions, an unlimited number of versions, scenarios, etc. And when your system needs more processing power, the system is intelligent and expands to give you that additional power. But what's really important is that you have this power without losing ease of use and maintainability. As you will see in the demo today, everything is extremely intuitive with drag and drop functionality so that the end users can own this system without assistance from IT. And that's why Adaptive has almost 6,000 customers globally in all kinds of different industries. This is way more than any of our competitors in the FP&A solution space. Did you know that Adaptive has a 95% gross retention rate? This speaks to the value of what these customers are getting out of Adaptive across all types of industries, as you can see here. And this is growing rapidly. As you can see, this is across all industries and worldwide based companies. Our commitment to innovation and customer success is recognized by the industry. It's a product that gets the highest user ratings and delivers business agility in times of change, and you can expect the software to be easy to use, easy to implement and maintain as your business scales. Being ranked #1 in ease of use, customer experience, satisfaction, usability, and best ROI, this should make you very excited to see Haley's demo now. So with that, I'll pass that over to my colleague, Haley, and Haley, if you'd like to take it from here.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Again, hello, everyone. My name's Haley Elliott. I'm one of our pre-sales solutions consultants, been working with Adaptive for about 2 years now, and actually started on our implementation team. So that just means if you have any technical questions or anything like that, anything else you want to see, please use that Q&A box to the max. I'm going to be primarily giving a high-level overview of Adaptive, but of course, there's so much more to explore. If I can't get to it today, we'll be sure to follow up on whatever questions you have. So I do always like to level set with a quick agenda. We're just going to start with some basics. So what does the structure of Adaptive look like, and touch very lightly on integration. Then we'll move into active dashboards and kind of the secret sauce behind why they're called active. We'll do focus on the P&L for our financial statements, but just know that we do typically build out all 3 financial statements in any implementation. So balance sheet, cash flow, and your income statement. For modeling, we're going to focus on workforce planning just to get a flavor of what kind of your input sheets look like in Adaptive. But again, that's really where I expect more questions to come up. And then we'll cap off with the other 2 types of reporting in Adaptive, which will be your ad hoc in-browser reporting and more of how to put together those board reporting packages, investor packages, anything like that using Office Connect. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump over into Adaptive. So this is my home screen. The reason I say my home screen is that you can configure home pages in Adaptive on a user-by-user basis. So in this case, I want to see top company metrics when I sign in right away without having to dig for them. But someone else might want company announcements, a specific model, reports, anything like that. So just keep that in mind as we move through, that every single view we see today can be configured to the individual user. So that's giving you that flexibility to really visualize data, how it's important to you. So like I said, we're going to start with basics. So there are 2 primary components to Adaptive's backbone, what we call the foundational data model. And the first one of those is going to be the level structure. So the level structure is basically your organizational structure, where your budget managers set your departments, divisions, segments. If you're in tangible goods, this might be your different manufacturing sites, warehouses, anything like that. But just kind of whatever structure you plan by. This is going to be your first line of security in Adaptive as well. So if you have a budget manager for the Sales North department, every report sheet dashboard they go to will automatically be filtered to the data for their level. So that's both security in that there is no chance of them being able to change someone else's data on accident, as well as that confidentiality piece. So instead of having to maintain 16 different dashboards or reports, you have one controlled by the level structure. The other piece here is going to be versions. So you do have an unlimited number of versions in Adaptive. That just means as you're kind of doing your monthly reforecasts, if that's something you're interested in moving towards, you can have 6 different versions, 20 different versions of that reforecast if you really want to. Load in as much data as you want, anything along those lines. You'll also notice this little lock icon at the bottom of some of these versions. That just means it's a locked version. And so individuals or users can still view that version, but they won't be able to change any of the data. They'll just be able to pull reports and the like. So that'll usually be used for your board approved budgets and that kind of thing to keep that locked down. One other kind of structural piece will just be time. You can adjust time to be by day, week, month, quarter, however you like to plan. You can do different time structures throughout different models. So lots of flexibility if you like to do assumptions quarterly and your revenue monthly or weekly, something like that. Lots of flexibility. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening on this dashboard. So like I said, we call these active dashboards for a few different reasons. One is just that any number you see on a dashboard, or honestly anywhere through Adaptive, is clickable. So that's something really valuable about Adaptive, is you can always get from your outputs to your inputs without needing to go to another system. So I have two options here. I can either explore data, and what that's going to do is open up a nice little cell explorer where I can see where it's coming, where that data is coming from, if there's calculation, any currency, and all kind of FX rates or exchanges that you need to do are automatically handled by Adaptive. So there's no really manual translation if you are a multinational corporation. But what's really cool here is this view audit trail. So you do have the ability to either click on that or pull a system-wide report to see what users have changed the underlying data for this line item, when they made the change, and what the change was. So again, bringing back that theme of visibility, integrity, and just that centralization of information. The other option we saw here was this drill down capability. So these are all of my dimensions in Adaptive that I have this data tagged with. What's cool here is as soon as you add a new dimension, which is a nice little plus button in the back end, no coding, it'll automatically be added to this list. So with a lot of other platforms out there, you will have to kind of predefine how you want to drill down and be able to code those in. But here it's automatically synced up as soon as you add that dimension. So this case, I'm looking at net revenue. I want to see that by location. I'm going to break that down. Let's say I have someone asking, okay, but what products are selling in the US? You can come there, products, and I see my metrics in a different way. So it's a really easy way to kind of slice and dice. You can even toss more dimensions up at the top. You can see I have investor. Again, if you do any sort of investor reporting, it's popular with a lot of our PE firm clients. But that's a couple of different ways you can start to get some more detail on your data. The last reason these are called active is that you can actually bring your models, so your sheets, directly onto the dashboard to make changes. So in this case, I have product revenue model on my sales dashboard. And if I just come into Sales North, I'm the budget owner for this department. And I want to see, hey, what happens if I exceed sales by, let's be ambitious and say 30%. So I'll go ahead, adjust that up, save. And what I'm doing here is a very quick what if scenario analysis. You can see all of my dials immediately updated. That product group A that I just adjusted up 30% is now making up 63% of my units sold instead of 62%. So just a really quick way to show you how these dashboards can start to be used for that live scenario analysis. And we're all used to getting asked questions about that during meetings. So you don't actually have to go anywhere else to figure out the cause and effect of any of those changes. In terms of distributing these, you can always download dashboards, dials, anything like that, or you can set up a snapshot schedule just to schedule this dashboard to be sent out to any sort of exec or something like that who likes to see these types of metrics, maybe on a weekly basis, something like that. So pretty cool there. In terms of building these dashboards, it's pretty straightforward. So if I just come into one that I've personally checked out, what you can do is come into edit, and you'll see that you have a ton of different charts available over here. Just drag one on, and then you immediately have access to just click a plus button for any accounts that you have in Adaptive. So there's not a restriction between like, can I put finance data and operational data on the same dashboard? Answer is yes, you can mix and match any data types that you would like in Adaptive. And then just, it's pretty flexible from there, breaking it down by dimensions, anything like that. Cool. So that's everything on dashboards. From here, I'm going to move into our financial statements. So I'm going to come to sheets. And actually, before I jump into that, I just wanted to point out the navigation menu here. So your entire planning, reporting, and analytics process is all in this single pane. You aren't having to sign into anywhere else to manage an integration or pull a report. And that means that your data is always going to be in sync because it's all in the same database. So I'll quickly actually run through a couple of these options here. Sheets are what we're about to get into. Those are your planning models. Wherever you're entering data, those working screens that you like to have, you typically won't have this many. But again, demo instance, we have a lot in here. Assumptions are your key drivers. So these are centralized areas for you to enter in sales drivers, workforce planning drivers, anything like that. We usually don't hard code. Instead, we'll create an assumption. And as soon as you change one of those assumptions, it'll update everywhere that value is referenced in the system. So for comparison, if you're currently in Excel, you're probably hard coding year-over-year growth rates or sales prices, something like that. Here, you consolidate that and just make the one change in one location. We'll get into reports. We do have consolidations available in Adaptive, which I'm not going to touch today, but happy to discuss. And by that, we mean intercompany eliminations like true accounting consolidations. Process tracker and workflow for decentralizing your planning, getting people into the system, giving them a nice checklist. And then the last two pieces here are going to be integration. Again, not diving too deep, but Adaptive is data agnostic. We can literally integrate with any system for financial data, operational metrics, an HRIS system, you name it, it can be done. You can also import CSV files if you don't want to set up an automated integration. So a lot of flexibility with how you get data into the system. And then last piece before we actually jump into the financial statements is just hitting home that point that Stan made, that this is supposed to be fully owned by finance. So you do have full access to what other customers are doing in the software, submitting technical requests directly to Workday. And there's this nice little question mark that will actually pull up context-dependent knowledge base. So instead of having to ping IT about, hey, how do I build a dashboard? Something like that. Just click that question mark and it's going to pull up all of the relevant articles, videos, pretty plain English on how to do whatever you need in the system. Okay, so getting back on track, we're going to open up the P&L right now. So a couple of things you're going to notice when I open the P&L, I have green numbers and black numbers. Green numbers are my actuals, which are currently automated from my ERP, and then black numbers, which are my plan data. You'll also see I have a couple of like graphs on the side, anything like that. That's just, again, something that I've created as a user preference, just in display options. And that's unlike Excel, Google Sheets, where one person makes a change, filters data, everyone's stuck with that view. Changes I make here in terms of just viewing the sheet won't impact anybody else. So let's kind of explore what's going on here. So we'll see there are a couple of fields, or a lot of fields, with this little blue caret in the bottom. That just means it's a calculated field. Calculations in Adaptive are, surprise, surprise, plain English, no coding here. And it's also a lot more informative than your A2 times B6 or time to sell in an entirely different workbook that doesn't exist anymore. This is just telling me, hey, we're taking the account, the FTE account from the personnel model, and multiplying it by a telephone per head assumption. There's a nice little formula assistant for you too, where you literally point at the accounts you want to use, insert them into a formula, and you're good to go. So you do not need any sort of coding background or anything like that. You'll also notice a little red caret. You can leave notes back and forth, and you'll see this when I go to reporting later. But once you pull a report, those notes will all pull through to that same report, so you can do a mass review of the comments that everyone's left for you. You do have the ability to enter directly into models in Adaptive. It's your choice if you open up financial statements to do that or not. But for instance, let's say I know my total year budget for new hire training next year is going to be higher. We're doing a ton of hiring, growing quickly. So I'm going to make it just over 22K. If I hit enter, Adaptive's built-in financial intelligence is going to go ahead and generate a couple of different options for me to break that back. The one that is kind of a crowd favorite, because it's kind of difficult to do without this, is the ability to break this value back proportionally using prior year values. So we've already automatically loaded our actuals in. And so now it's just a matter of Adaptive calculating seasonality. I'll click OK. And you see that number has been broken back based on last year's actuals instead of just an even spread. So pretty cool there. What you can also do here, and this will take us more into the deeper into modeling, is just drill through from any of these numbers. Remember, you can always click on something. Going to explore my salary and wages line just to see where those salaries are specifically coming from. So I'll go ahead and click through. And you'll see some line item detail. I know this can be a little bit alarming if there's anyone from HR on here, but don't worry. There is a permission in the back end that you can uncheck for salary detail permission, and end users won't even see this line item detail. So you do not have to give everyone permission to see all of this. You can just give them access to the top line number and still protect that sensitive workforce planning data. But I'm going to jump into a workforce planning sheet. And you could have definitely gotten to this through the sheets. I just like following through from my outputs back to my inputs. This is model sheet. It's very common for supporting schedules, anything like that. If you do prepaids, accruals, want to bring in Salesforce data, CRM data. These columns are all completely configurable. We drag them and drop them on in the back end. A lot of them are tied to assumptions on those workforce assumption sheets that I kind of called out. So anything related to taxes, something like that. We do have the ability to actually allocate employees across projects, departments, anything along those lines, either based on a percentage you key in, projected hours, anything like that. So this is pretty basic workforce planning model, but just know you can get much more complex with these if you'd like to. All of the calculations on this type of sheet do happen in the back end. So if I come into row details, come over to my planning period, we'll see a bunch of calculations, again, configurable. Whatever's most valuable to you is what we will put in here for you. But something interesting to see in terms of financial intelligence is just this tax calculation here for Canada. So you'll see once this individual hits her limit for the year, it'll go ahead and drop that calculation, and then Adaptive knows, hey, we're in the next financial year. And yes, if you have a non-standard calendar, Adaptive can work with that. It'll recognize that, no worries at all. In this case, we're working January through December. So I pick that calculation back up in January. So just thinking about using Adaptive to automate a more granular planning process. Last piece here, you do have the ability to add rows directly on to the sheet, copy and paste from a CSV file. However, people like to key in data, Adaptive most likely has a way for them to do it that way. And as soon as I save off a change on any of these sheets, it immediately updates any linked models, the financial statements, that kind of thing. Beautiful. So I know we do have a couple of questions. I'm going to cover the other two pieces, and then if we have time, I will jump to those questions. But for now, we're going to jump to reports. So last two types of visualization and adaptive are going to be our ad hoc and browser reporting and Office Connect. We're going to start with the ad hoc piece. So what I'm going to do here is just open up a couple of tabs for us. So this is our report interface. You do have the ability to create shared reports, personal reports, if you want to have your own playground, anything along those lines. And it's all pretty straightforward to build if you like transactional reports. A lot of variety here, and I'll bring you into the back end of a report in a moment. For now, I'm going to click on to our expense variance. So yes, it's very easy to do budget versus actuals, BVA analysis, and adaptive, compare different versions, compare as many versions as you want. So here I'm just looking at budget versus actuals. Couple of things about this report. All of those notes that I mentioned on the P&L pull through to my footnotes here. You don't have to have them as footnotes if you want them in line. That's fine. Formatting preference. I have the ability to switch between currencies. So if I want to see this entire report in Canadian dollars, I can. Adaptive's just going to translate it for me. And again, you can always click on a number. So I see this kind of crazy variance for other T&E. I'm going to come in, click on my actuals to figure out why we were $2 million over. And you'll see this nice little option to drill into transactions, which is going to pull up a transactions report. You can add whatever columns you want here, vendor ID, project, invoice number. But this is valuable in that you don't have to go back to your ERP to figure out where data is coming from. So again, thinking about this is centralizing, especially if your company has multiple ERPs, you can still bring in transactional detail and have this single transaction report. The last piece here before I show you the back end is the ability to pivot this report. So I'm going to click on salary and wages just to stay consistent. You can, of course, add notes if you want to add notes to a report. But we'll see that nice little drill down path. So think about consistency across the platform. This looks very similar to our dashboards. And for now, I want to see salary and wages by function instead of individual departments. And now I see this data grouped in a different way. So if I am showing this and someone asks me, hey, where's like what part of this data is S&M, something like that, just click and pivot the report and you'll have an answer without having to rebuild all of this. Yes, you can download this to Excel and PDF as well. And in terms of the back end, surprise, surprise, this is also click and drag. So you can see here, I have all of my elements in adaptive. Looks pretty similar to our dashboarding interface. And like I said earlier, you can mix and match different account types or data types. So I could even bring my FTE headcount onto this and just rerun this report. So click and drag, pretty straightforward. The last type of reporting that I'll cover is Office Connect. So Office Connect is this is just a template we've set up, but Office Connect is a plugin to the full Microsoft 365 suite. So your Excel, PowerPoint, and Word. Here we basically sign into our credentials. So that just means any security permissions you've included in Adaptive will carry over to the Microsoft Office. If I highlight linked cells, everything that's blue is connected directly to adaptive data. So you know it's always in sync. Green are dynamic labels. So it's all click and drag like I mentioned. I'm going to quickly open up my GL accounts, expenses, and grab a couple of accounts. I'll drag these over. Yes, if you have board reporting packages already created, you can just install Office Connect and drag accounts to make those reports live. And before I refresh this for my March report, just note that you do have full Excel capabilities in terms of formulas. So if there's some pretty chart you want to create, you can absolutely do that. For now, instead of spending 2 days recreating this report for my March board report, I'm going to come into workbook properties, go ahead, roll this forward a month. Okay, refresh. And we're going to go ahead and see that all of my data there populated. We also saw this label update to March. So I'm now looking at my March data. You also have the ability to explore back into Adaptive. So if someone's looking at this report and they're like, where did that number come from? Just explore cell and we'll see that it goes ahead and opens up that cell explorer back in Adaptive. Last 2 pieces here. One, this will keep Adaptive in sync with your GL account structure as well. So once you add a GL account in Adaptive, you will see it sync here. If I added 6140 in Adaptive, next time I refresh this report, it's going to show up as long as there's data there. So you never have to worry about, hey, did I actually include all of the data in this report? Am I missing anything? Pretty straightforward there. Last piece is a question we get a lot is, hey, we want this type of report for all of our departments or something like that. Usually that takes you a lot of time to sift through and format all of that. But in Adaptive and specifically Office Connect, come up to repeating reports and you'll see all of your elements here. I'm going to pick levels with our test company. We'll pick 3 countries. And you can see at the bottom here, I now have Office Connect reports for the UK, Canada, US, and still my total company P&L. So that's a pretty quick overview of Office Connect. There's a lot you can do here. It is one of our top features, just because of the pains all of you are probably very aware of. And just to top us off, I do see a couple of quick questions that are actually quite easy to answer. So Shannon asked, does this handle a 13-period year as opposed to 12 months? Absolutely. You can customize the calendar really as much as you'd like. So you can do 13 periods. We can do 544, anything along those lines. So yes. For Chris is asking, is it possible to limit users access to row level detail? Yes, we have something called, well, first of all, with respect to payroll data, there is that permission in the back end that I mentioned that's just that's just a checkbox for salary detail permissions. So you can deselect that and that takes away all of the payroll data or the ability to actually drill into that. If you want to get even more granular, Adaptive does have something called access rules that you can restrict user access to specific dimensions, dimension values, accounts. So you can get very granular with security if you really want to. But that looks like most of the questions for now, and being mindful of time, I am going to go ahead and pass it back to Stan to take us home.
Okay, thank you very much, Haley. Hopefully everyone saw how powerful, flexible, and especially how easy Adaptive is to use with the simple drag and drop functionality that Haley showed you. If you need more information, we have plenty of resources we can make available to you, such as a one-on-one demonstration that speaks more to your needs. We can offer up ROI sessions to quantify the value of this investment, hands-on workshops, and even get your hands on a trial as well. Just let us know what makes sense for you and we will connect you or connect with you in a follow-up meeting or reach out to me directly. We are happy to help you. We encourage you to learn more about Revelwood and our implementation approach by visiting our website at revelwood.com. While you are there, we also encourage you to visit our Knowledge Center, where we offer tips and tricks about all aspects of the planning process, technical tips on the tool, planning tips about the budgeting process, and various tips on other business aspects of your FP&A model. Thank you everyone again for attending, and one of my colleagues will be reaching out to you for a 15-minute follow-up call. Hopefully you will make time to share your feedback and let us know how else we can possibly help. Everyone have a great rest of the day, and thank you again for attending the webinar.